Hello, welcome back to the YouTube channel of Bethel Evangelical Free Church Hanley. I'm Pastor Gervais Charnley. This is another historic church in Cumbria. This is St Mary's, Gosforth. And what we see today is basically completely rebuilt in the 1890s, 1896, 97. There was a Norman church here, bits of it are still around. It was rebuilt then in the 13th century, pulled about a bit in subsequent centuries, and eventually early 19th century, well, late 19th century, they go, we need to have a massive rebuild, and that's what they did. So basically it's a Victorian building. Now it's a Victorian building with older elements and older features, and it's most noted for its Danish hogback gravestones. So these are pre-conquest and part of the connection between here and Scandinavia. So we'll have a look around and pay in particular attention to the relics from what once was. So let's go. So here we are now. Gosforth, we're coming up from the coastal plain and into the mountains, into the hilly bits of Lake District. But here we have the font at the back, that's Victorian, and the aisle is Victorian. But here are the hogback gravestones, which are considerably older. These would be from, I say they discovered during, but these would be, what, 9th century, I suppose. This is quite interesting and surprising. This is a Chinese bell. And where does it come from? Well, it comes from Sir Humphrey Senhouse, Captain Sir Humphrey Senhouse, Royal Navy, who was involved in taking Canton, taking the heights of Canton, senior naval officer and commander of Her Majesty's squadron. And he died on board HMS Blenheim. Here go the bells. Well, maybe. HMS Blenheim. Nope. June 13th, 1841, age 60. Well, no, age 59. So these are relics. You can see that's a Chinese cannonball that would have been fired at his ship. This is a memorial to a later naval gentleman. This is to Lieutenant Commander Austin Noel Rees Keane, Royal Navy, who was killed when HMS Glorious was sunk. Glorious was one of the old light battle cruisers, as they're known. Large light cruisers, they were allegedly, and it's sunk during the Norway operations, if I remember correctly. The isle has mostly had its pews taken out. You can see through here, the little courtyard here, and that's because there's a big church hall has been built onto the building. And this is a model here. This is of the Gosforth cross. The real thing's outside, but it's been reconstructed here. Give an idea of what it would have been like when it was completed. We have here the war memorial for the Great War, and there's some more relics up here, bits and pieces, cross heads. You can see the Chancel Arch here is mostly Victorian, but there is some older material. So you can see here this head. This is a green man. Sort of fertility resurrection symbol, face spewing forth greenery, and very common memorial. We're never quite entirely sure what it meant, but I say one thought it was to do with the resurrection. The organ, very important, of course, for a good Victorian church, an organ. And here again, we have again this green man motif, heads spewing forth vegetation. And we proceed eastwards. There's the great east window. Crucifixion in the centre, and then you've got either side, there's the Nativity and the Resurrection. There's the Mothers' Union banner. The Mothers' Union, of course, is an organisation for mothers, for supporting mothers within the Church of England. It's very much an Anglican organisation. The MU, as it's nicknamed. Good Samaritan there. And here we look west and you can see all the way to the west end. And yes, that is a sort of gallery bit up there. It's associated more with the clock, I think, but you could have somebody do a reading or sing or blow a trumpet or something up there. This chandelier has been converted to electricity, as so many have, because of course it's so much safer having electricity than having lighted candles and dropping wax on the heads of your congregants. Here is an unusual St. Cecilia. Just trying to get a bit closer, we can see her. Unusual St. Cecilia because she's got a lyre rather than an organ. She's normally pictured with an organ. Patron saint of organists, of course, and this is in memory of Evelyn Margaret Wood, who was the organist here. She died in 1954. So that is the inside here. Quite nice woodwork. It's imitation 17th century, not actually 17th century, but it's imitating that style, which is quite good. It's better to see this than the sort of off-the-peg benches that you'll find in so many Victorian churches. This is clearly made for this church. There's money here. Not just tourism money. We've got some nice stained glass as well, but that really comes out well in these videos, particularly when it's got the sun shining through it like this. But yes, you see, there's the one that's Christ, and got receiving little children who've got Christ also feeding the 5,000. And then here we have the dedication at the temple. Lord, now lettest thou thy servant depart in peace. So that is that. And again we do a 360, trying to be not too. So there we are. Do a not a 360, a 180. There we have it inside. So we'll go outside next. And so here we are outside at Gosforth. You can just see over here, this is the cross. I was talking about this big tall cross that you've got the model inside, and this is the real thing. And the real thing, because it's slightly battered, the model is a reconstruction. And no tower here, you've just got this triple actually bell cot. So have a look around again. This nave is basically entirely Victorian. There's a sort of low part of the walls are medieval, but everything else is Victorian. No doubt it was in a poor state, and the thought was, well, rather than patch it up, we'll just take it down to where we think it's safe and build it up again. You see this in so many places. So let's have a look around the outside. So here we go. This is, incidentally, if you're following the chronological order of these videos, this is taken just after, and in fact this church is only about 1.5 miles, maybe 2 miles from Ponsonby, so very, very close. This is the base of a medieval cross. That's a delivery van going past. The road is behind me, and this is the cross. And it's got Danish elements to it, wheel head. They reckon that the wheel head is simply a way of making a head that is less fragile than it would be if it didn't have those round bits. And here's the south wall of the church, and you see that doorway, and essentially just below the windows is where the medieval work stops, and everything above there is 1890s, mid to late 1890s. And there's a big graveyard because there's been a church here for probably over 1,000 years. And we've got the usual spring flowers growing up, and it's the Lake District at its best, really. I mean, people come in the summer, but the spring you've got all these flowers, like the daffodils to inspire Wordsworth. There's more medieval work in the chancel here. You can see it's always that thing. Look at where the stone is rougher, and look at where the stone work is more regular. And the more rough stone you see, also the smoother work. And the more rough work is medieval, because it would have been rendered, whereas the Victorians wanted to show the stonework here. And that around the chancel. I have to be careful I don't step on any daffodils, because the churchyard is rather full of them, which is nice. So there's the chancel, very good. And it's all this local red sandstone. And the thing about sandstone is red sandstone is really pretty, but you've got to be careful about how easily weathered it can be. And that's one of the reasons, as well as just the impressiveness of having it all white, but one of the reasons for rendering it is to protect the stone underneath so it doesn't weather too much. And where you have buildings that were supposed to be rendered and the Victorians took the render off, so we liked looking at the stonework, you quite often had problems with the stonework because the stone is too soft and too easily weathered to be exposed the way it's been. And I don't really blame the Victorians too much for that. It's that they weren't aware of what was going on. Now here we have, it is one of the more impressive memorials. This is Hope with an anchor, and this is to John Huddleston, who died in 1834, and his wife had died in 1822. He was 62, and obviously the wife in question is 44. So that's rather and obviously it's been made by a local person. The proportions are all a bit off, but he's made an effort, which is nice. But often these local artisan statuary sculpture, you find you've got these rather odd proportions. Largely because the people responsible, the man responsible, wouldn't have actually been used to doing that sort of thing. And here we've got this massive hall that's been built on, and nothing wrong with that, by the way. There's nothing wrong with building a hall, particularly this one. I mean, this is red sandstone. It's the same material as the church. It's perhaps 100 years later than the nave, and it's really rather good. And it makes the building, it's suitable. It's one of those big things when it comes to buildings like this, is adding to a structure is fine, and these churches have grown over time. And if what you do is add to its value, that's a jolly good idea. And so we come around here to be a little bit careful because of the sunlight. You can see there's the entrance to the hall, and there's the church next door, and we get around here to get a look at that belfry. And there it is, the 3 bells. And so that is St Mary's, Gosforth. So there we have it, St Mary's, Gosforth. Just trying to find a place I can get most of the church in the background. And you see, medieval origins, mostly 1896, 97. The chancel is medieval, but everything else really 1890s, on medieval lower past the walls, and then you've got the latest hall behind. So thank you for watching, and may God bless you and keep you until next time.